which goes very well with our theme of the quest for knowledge, is about aiming high and setting goals for ourselves. As Muslims, we know we should always strive for excellence in whatever it is that we do, and that we should make plans for our lives. Or I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. So the topic of today's workshop is not aiming high and setting goals for ourselves. That was the previous one that Zainab's just done, mashallah. The one we're doing today is about character building. As I was saying, we know that as Muslims, we should always strive for excellence and try and improve ourselves constantly. And today we have Brother Yusuf Khan with us, who inshallah will be leading the session. He is a civil engineer by background and management consultant at KPMG. He's also a khatib and a keen student of Islamic knowledge. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Brother Yusuf, over to you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. I don't know, is there a process to use video or not? Just want to make sure.
It's completely up to you. I think it would be nice to have video, makes it interactive.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala ahli wa sahbihi wa balah, amma ba'd. The topic that you know I was asked to speak or deliver this workshop on is good character, and specifically, you know, the importance of good character in seeking knowledge and how one builds good character. And actually, this is a topic that it's one of those topics that I fear when particularly when we head down the path of seeking knowledge. Initially, at least, we neglect very much. Everyone is always very keen to, you know, learn those things that are more tangible. You know, I know the rules of, you know, I'm learning the rules of tajweed, or, you know, the rules or the different statements around aqidah or fiqh or these things, right? That feels good for us, but we often neglect good character. So it's something that, you know, very close to my heart, and something that I think needs a lot more attention, particularly, you know, not just because it's neglected, but for the person starting out, you know, for the Muslims starting out on the path of seeking knowledge. Actually, we'll come back to this point, but it is even more important for them, because when you have a little knowledge, you make mistakes. When you have a little knowledge without good character, you end up, you know, using that knowledge in the wrong way. So good character is fundamental, especially for the person for the Muslim who is starting out on that path towards seeking knowledge, who has gained a bit, to ensure they don't misuse it. So this is good character. Another thing, just in terms of introduction to this session, I think you might remember me from earlier in the year. I will be asking you to chip in. I will be asking you questions for your thoughts. So be prepared. Be prepared for that, and please don't be shy, because otherwise it makes it very, very awkward for me. So you need to be a bit kind to me and have some good character towards me, and be ready to chip in, inshallah. And if you know you're more comfortable doing that over the chat, then that's fine. If you're more comfortable doing that over the microphone, that's fine as well. However you would. So starting with good character, actually, you know, what is our baseline? What do you know about good character? Anyone? When I say good character, what does that mean? Kindness, behavior, good answers, morals, means that you're respectful. Good, same answer, but obviously a good one, humility. Very good. And if I say good interactions with others, that's a very good point. Acceptance. So if I say good character in Islam, is there a difference? Firstly, is there a difference when I'm saying good character and good character in Islam? Or actually, no. The question I want to ask is, what is the importance of good character for Muslims in Islam, etc.? What do we know about the importance of good character? The Prophet ﷺ was sent to perfect our character. There's a word, there's a very important word that I feel like you missed in that answer, but it's still a very good answer. Having good character as a Muslim in a non-Muslim environment is important. Okay, this is true, and there's some specific points that we may come to on that. Okay, no, this is good. So starting with that first question, what is good character? We have the ahadith, for example. Okay, one of the ahadith that the great scholar Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah, included in his text, his very famous text, the 40 hadith, al-Arba'un al-Nawawi. Okay, and also a hadith that the scholars, they said about this hadith, this is one of those hadiths that the whole of the religion revolves around. Okay, in this hadith, the Prophet he said, "Ittaqillah haythuma kunt." Have fear, have consciousness of Allah wherever you are. واتبع السيئة بالحسنة تمحها. Follow an evil deed with a good deed, because it will wipe it. And وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. And deal with people, behave with people with the best of behaviors, with this khuluq hasan. Okay? And if we look at these words, khuluq hasan, let's take the adjective first. Okay, the hasan. What does hasan mean? Do we know what hasan means? At least one person needs to respond with the obvious answer. What does Hasan mean? Good. Okay, this is the obvious answer. But Hasan, you look at the scholars and what they wrote. They said Hasan is the opposite of qabih. Okay, something qabih, something ugly. Okay? So they said Hasan is actually it means something beautiful. It's something beautiful. So we're talking about dealing with people in a beautiful way. Okay, something that, when you look at it, it is attractive, it is nice, it's something, that you look at, you're saying, MashaAllah, this person has good manners, MashaAllah, look at his manners, look at his character. He's got good character. This is what we're talking about here. This husnul khulq. Okay, it's something beautiful to observe. And khuluq itself, okay, the word, someone already mentioned, good interaction with others. We can see this in the use of the term in the hadith itself. The Prophet he said, deal with people, behave with people, the way you interact with people. But there's another word that we know of that has the same letters in it. Kha, lam, ha. Which word is this? And what does it mean? So it's not a trick question. No, kha, lam, fa. Exactly the same letters as khuluq, but slightly different harakat, but different vowels. Great, good. Khalaqa. Okay. The verb khalaqa, okay, or khaliq or khalq, okay, create. And actually this tells us something as well, okay, about how we need to understand khuluq. To create, okay, is khalaqa. And khuluq, okay, your character, is what you are built upon. Okay, some of the scholars mentioned it, that character is your moral upbringing. Okay, it is what you know, your morals and your personality stands upon, your behavior stands upon. Everything you are is built upon your khuluq. Okay? So an interesting, when you look at the linguistics, and sometimes you see this, there's amazing reflections you can have looking at the linguistics and the roots of these words and so on. But your behavior, okay, the way you act, okay, everything you are almost is built upon your character. So husnul khuluq, okay, good character. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about something, okay, that is instilled in a person, that is, it's very much what you are, okay, and your kind of outward is just a reflection of that. And it's something that is beautiful to observe. It's something that someone looking on will say, subhanAllah, look at this guy's manners, look at this sister's manners. It's so beautiful. We're attracted to, dealing with this person who has these good manners, because it's something beautiful. So this is good character. And for good character, you have the best of examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directs us to this. We see in terms of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, okay, في إبراهيم والذين معه, okay, in Ibrahim and those who were with him alayhi salam, we have the best of examples. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention about them? And this was mentioned earlier. They're dealing with the non-Muslims, how they address them respectfully, but making clear their disassociation with that which they worship. Disassociation with their shirk. And we have in the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Surah Al-Qalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and you are surely on the best character, the greatest character. These are our examples. And in fact, do you know Surah Al-Qalam? The main, at least the first half of Surah Al-Qalam, and really throughout Surah Al-Qalam, the main theme of this surah. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. What is the main theme of this surah? Does anyone know? So the main, I'll take that to mean don't know. The main theme of this surah is the defense of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It starts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, good. Someone mentioned the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam isn't mad. Okay, but it's even more than that. Okay? And yes, he isn't mad is part of it, but it also addressed the example, that you didn't make this up, that you're not. This isn't the goal of a poet or a soothsayer, and so on. But it's in defense of the Prophet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in this surah that example, that great example to reflect on, of the people of the garden. Okay? Why? what does that show them? They're heading for destruction. There are warners amongst them, telling them why aren't you glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But then they head for destruction and they're left in regret. This is part of the defense of the Prophet. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the statements of the disbelievers, or the arguments against them, that the Prophet isn't asking for anything of you, that you don't have any kind of knowledge of the ghaib that you're writing down. Allah challenges them, okay? But Allah starts this defense of the Prophet with what? With almost, right at the beginning of the surah, Allah makes an oath, okay, by the pen, right? To show the greatness, the azma of this matter, okay, how great, how important it is. Starts with an oath. And we should realize this, whenever Allah is making an oath, swearing by something, it tells us there's a great matter coming. And almost the first thing, after defending against, the claim that he's mad, Allah's almost first defense, okay? One of the first things Allah mentioned, you are on the best, the greatest character. This shows us how great and how important good character is. And this was the Prophet ﷺ. So we are given the best of examples. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ, there's the famous narration from Aisha radiallahu anha. Does everyone know which one I'm thinking of in relation to the Prophet ﷺ's character? No? Come on, I'm sure there's at least some in the room who knows. That Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the Prophet's character, and what was her response?
She said he's like a walking Quran.
A walking Quran. In fact, the kind of narration that's in some ways more widely narrated is she just said very simply, كان خلقه القرآن. His character was the Quran. Just simple as that. His character was the Quran. This was the Prophet. This is the example that we are to emulate. And in fact, we have to be careful with this point. But in fact, some of the scholars, they mention the good character, okay, that we are trying to adopt. In some ways, we are trying to. Who has the best characteristics? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has the best characteristics. So in some ways, some of the scholars have mentioned we are trying to become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by trying to take on, as far as humanly possible, those parts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's characteristics that we are able to. So like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is generous, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle and forbearing, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is truthful, or all of these things. These are things that are part of good character that we are trying to take on. And of course, we don't want to leave any room for confusion. There is no way a man, even the best of men, can be like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, in the perfection of characteristics. But what we are saying is actually our ideal is to become as close as humanly possible in our character to those characteristics that is humanly possible for us to take on. So the best of examples. One more point on good character. We know from the Prophet the narration where he made the dua, Allahumma kama hassanta aw ahsanta khalqi fahassin khuluqi. So the Prophet he said, Oh Allah, just as you have perfected, beautified, made good my creation. Okay, meaning my outward, my appearance, right? Make good, beautify, khuluqi, my character. And this tells us something, because we often see this in the ahadith, even in the ayat of Quran. There's contrast given. Okay? We see contrast. So we see here the Prophet ﷺ talking about his outward, and then he compares it to khuluq, the character. So this tells us that there's two parts here. There's the outward and there's the inward. And the inward is the character, is a person's character. Okay? So what do we take from this? Good character, and its expression is a reflection of the inward. And we find this in most of other hadith. For example, we find this in the Prophet ﷺ telling us about the signs of the munafiq. Okay, and we know nifaq is something of what? Is it something outward or inward? Hypocrisy, nifaq, is it something outward or inward? It's something inward. It's something of the heart. Good. This is something of the heart, the hypocrisy. And yet, what does the Prophet ﷺ mention? All outward things that are behaviors. That when he speaks, he lies. That when he promises, he breaks his promise. When he's trusted with something, he betrays it. Or that when he argues, he goes, exceeds in his argument. He goes too far. Okay. Or all of those narrations on his behaviors, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, are signs of a munafiq, signs of this nifaq, this inward condition. Okay, this condition of the heart. These are all expressions and signs of that, these behaviors. And we also find, the other hadith on this, like man la yasturu nas, la yasturu Allah. The one who isn't grateful to people, isn't grateful to Allah. Okay. Well, if you read the translation, they'll translate this as cannot be grateful to Allah, or along those lines in the kind of interpretation. Because again, this is an outward expression of something that's inward. He's not grateful to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he can't be grateful to Allah because he doesn't have the characteristic of being grateful even to the people. Or we say, and of course there are other explanations, it's like the scholars, they also mention that being grateful to Allah is being grateful to the creation, okay, is a recognition, or you can't be grateful to Allah if you're not grateful to the creation, because that means you're not recognizing that the creation is Allah's creation. Okay, so there are other explanations, of course, to that hadith, but one of them is this, that the outward gratitude to people is a reflection of the inner. So if you can't be grateful to people, that means your inner is not grateful to Allah. And we also find the hadith of the man who was sitting with the Prophet and he saw Al-Hasan, okay, the grandson of the Prophet, he saw the Prophet kiss him. And he said to the Prophet that he has 10 children and he's never kissed one of them. And the Prophet dismayed with this, said to him, Man la yarham la yurham. Whoever isn't merciful, okay, can't be merciful, then he will not have any mercy for him. There's no mercy for this person. Okay? Why? Again, it's the outward being a reflection of his inner. He's not being merciful to even his own children. So his condition is such that he can't expect any mercy from Allah. But this is good character. Okay? The good character, we said, it is something beautiful. It's something that the observer both finds amazing and is attracted to this person as a result. It is something that is reflected in the dealings with people, but it is also an inner condition. Allahumma kama hassanta khalqi بحسن خلق. Just have you, as you have perfected and made beautiful my outward, make beautiful my character. So this is good character. And the importance of good character, we've also mentioned some of in this way. Okay, we mentioned like the hadith, okay, this hadith that the scholars, they mentioned, the whole of the religion revolves around. Okay, one of those hadith that the whole of the religion revolves around. Allah says, وَخَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. Sorry, the Prophet said, وَخَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. They deal with people with good character. Okay, we have the hadith that the Prophet was asked, مَا أَكْثَرُ مَا يُدْخِلُ النَّاسَ الْجَنَّةِ. What is the thing that will most enter people into Jannah? And the Prophet he said two things: taqwa Allah wa husnul khuluq. Fear of Allah and husnul khuluq, good character. And we mentioned earlier that the Prophet he said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ صَالِحَ الْأَخْلَاقِ or مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. That surely I was, and the words that was missing, I think it was the sister who mentioned this earlier. The word that was missing was this innama, means only. I was only sent to perfect the good character. This is the importance of good character, and we mentioned some of these already. But focusing on a few points in that. إنما بعثت لأتمم صالح الأخلاق. What does this tell us? What conclusion or reflection can we have on this? And why I said that word only was so crucial. Good, very good answer. Exactly. That good character is related to the whole deen. The whole religion, the entirety of the religion is good character. That the Prophet said, I was only sent to perfect the good character. And in fact, okay, we have Abu Dhar, radiallahu anhu. Okay? Before he became Muslim, right, and he was the leader of a tribe, okay, like a nomadic tribe, and actually the tribe, what they would do, they were basically highway robbers. Okay? They would attack the passing caravans, they would rob them, and that's how they did. Okay? So his tribe this was what they would do. And Abu Dhar was the leader of his tribe. Okay? And he heard about the Prophet, okay? That the Prophet had come with this. So he sent his brother, go and find out, what's going on here. So his brother goes, okay? And he comes back. And when he comes back, he says, I saw him. Okay, this is how he described what he saw. I saw him telling people to have good manners. This was his summary. Okay, he's been sent by his brother, a tribe that stands against, that has no care for honesty or trust or anything like that. They're highway robbers. And his brother goes and comes back. Okay, and the thing that he takes away from what he's seen, okay, he's been sent to go and investigate. The thing he takes away is this man, okay, who's claiming to be a prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's telling people to have good manners. He doesn't come back and say he's telling them, to worship Allah or to pray or to give charity or this and that. He says he's telling them to have good manners. This is what this man is ordering. This is what he's commanding. We see the hadith, okay, another hadith that the scholars, they mentioned, the whole deen, revolves around. Inna deen al-nasiha. that the deen, the religion is nasiha. Okay, and nasiha we translate in English to be advice. But does anyone know what the word actually means? There's a statement, okay, from Ibn Rajab, where he said that the closest word to nasiha in Arabic is another word. Does anyone know what that other word is?
Is the intention?
Almost. Very close. It's ikhlas, sincerity. Okay? Sincerity. And actually, when we translate it, we might translate it as sincerity of intention. Because then the hadith goes on to say, what? Do we know what the hadith goes on to say in the din nasiha? Then, and nasihatu liman. And what is mentioned? Very important hadith. You can go home and research. That and nasihatu, firstly lillah, okay, Allah, but then also the books, to the messengers, to people, their leaders and their commonwealth. How is one sincere to all of these? How is one sincere to them? It's in the way they behave towards them. You behave sincerely, with sincerity. You have sincerity of intention towards them. You have sincerity of intention towards them. So when I approach my Muslim brother or my Muslim sister, I approach them with sincerity of intention. I approach them with good in my heart for them. And the same with the non-Muslims. In fact, one of the things I think we lose in da'wah, okay, is a lot of the time da'wah is seen as how many people became Muslim at this person's time. Okay? Instead, if you look at the prophetic da'wah, it was about care and sincerity towards the people. I'm not, I don't want to count how many of you become Muslim. In fact, some of the prophets of the past, they even said, that, about the poor people becoming Muslim. They gave no weight to the rich people or the leaders becoming Muslim over the poor. And they even said that if I turn those poor people away so that you could become Muslim, then I would be, I'd be disgraced, I'd be so on and so forth. I'd be, tyrannical or doing zulm and so on. So it's not about the da'wah, it's not about how many people became Muslim. It should be, and the prophetic da'wah was about care and sincerity towards the people. Sincerity, sincerely wishing good for the non-Muslims, wishing for them to become Muslim for their benefit. This is, what the source of our da'wah should be. But sincerity is what should drive our behavior. Okay? But again, the point, that kind of underlying point, sincerity in the deen and nasiha. Sincerity is the religion. And this sincerity that the Prophet talked about was how we deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we deal with the message and the messengers, and how we deal with people. So this character and this dealing, and we have to include, and the scholars actually, they said when they looked at the interpretation of the hadith we mentioned before, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ صَالِحَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I was only sent to perfect the good character. They said, actually, this includes good character with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand this to be true because it includes good character with Allah. You can't, exclude Tawheed from the religion, right? So if the Prophet had sent only to perfect the good character, that means that Tawheed must feature in there. And they said it is the dealings with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which are part of good character. So good character is the entirety of the mission. We also find, again, on the importance of good character, that good character and dealing with others in a good way is placed only second to Tawheed. Can anyone think of any ayat of the Quran where this is clear? Good character only comes second to Tawheed, or good dealing with others. Okay, alhamdulillah, we'll take that as don't know. We find many actually, even if you start with Al-Baqarah, okay, Allah says about the Mithaq, the covenant with Bani Israel. وإذ أخذنا ميثاق بني إسرائيل لا تعبدون إلا الله وبالوالدين إحسانا. Okay, after, don't worship other than Allah, وبالوالدين إحسانا. Be good with your parents. Okay? And you go further on in the same ayah, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Speak good to the people. Okay, we find this in Surah An-Nisa. Allah says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. So again, all these different dealings. Be good with your parents, with your relatives, with the orphan and the poor and your neighbors, whether they are relatives or otherwise, the traveler, the slave girls, or the slaves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah la yuhibbu man kana mukhtalan fakhura. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't love the arrogant, proud one. A behavioral characteristic contrasted against all of that. Be good with all of these people and don't have this bad characteristic, okay, of being proud and tyrannical and so on. Okay? We see actually in Surah Al-Isra, Allah sometimes there's almost a page worth of ayat about dealing with people. Okay? Allah sometimes starts it again. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. That Allah has prescribed, your Lord has prescribed for you, that you worship none but Him. And وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Again, next thing, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. We see in Luqman alayhi salam, Allah says that He gave him wisdom, and He was advising his son. First thing, don't la tushrik billah. Okay? Don't do shirk, worship anything besides Allah. Give any rights to Allah to others. And then, same thing, be good with your parents. And He mentions the reasons why, but again, good character, good dealing with others. Place second in these ayats only to Tawheed. So such is the importance. And in fact, I actually noted down in preparation for this, there's all the ahadith in Imam al-Nawawi's collection of 40 hadith that relate to good character. Actually, there's more than 10 of them. More than a quarter of the ahadith in Imam al-Nawawi's collection relates to good character. And what is the relevance of it? If you read, and I would advise all of you to read Imam al-Nawawi's introduction. It's something that, I think I don't do enough of, and nobody really, well, I can't say nobody, but a lot of us don't do enough of, is reading the introduction to the books of the scholars. We always get into the detail without even looking at why and what they've said about why they've done, why they've authored this book. And you see that Imam al-Nawawi, right, in the beginning, in his introduction, rahimahullah, he mentions what has he tried to do. He's tried to collect those ahadith that are most important to the religion. Okay? They're most important to the religion, most important to the Muslim. These are ahadith that he was basically saying, I can't remember if he said it explicitly or not, every Muslim should know these hadith. And a quarter of them relate to good character. Some of which we've mentioned, some we haven't. You know, la taghdab, the Prophet repeated 3 times when a man came and asked, advise me. Okay? Or the Prophet said, la yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibbu li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsihi. One of you doesn't believe until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. The previous la taghdab means don't get angry. Okay? All of these ahadith, so many of them, you know, al-birr husn al-khuluq. Actually, this is a very important one. Al-birr, righteousness, is good character. Okay? La darar wa la dirar. No harming and no reciprocating harm. All about character and dealing with others. لا تحاسدوا ولا تجاسوا. But that you don't have envy, you don't spy, you don't have hatred, etc., etc. All of these are hadith. Imam al-Nawawi collected in his collection, where he was trying to set out those hadiths that every Muslim should know, those hadiths that are most important for a Muslim to do. So such is the importance of good character. And we come to, and you know, it's very important for us to see, you know, we've already seen the importance of good character for the one seeking knowledge. Okay? And actually all of this is just both the importance of good character for the believer generally and more so for the one who is approaching knowledge. But there's, you know, there are specific statements we can mention on this. Can anyone think of anything they've come across about the scholars on the importance of good character in relation to seeking knowledge? Well, I'm sure we've all come across something. Good. The heart of Islam, the term used, I think what you're referring to, is the head of the matter. So some of the scholars, they said a good character is the head of the matter. It's the Arabic phrase, Ra's al-Amr. That is the head of the matter. It lies at the pinnacle. Anything else? Have you come across the statement, أَدِّبُوهُمْ ثُمَّ أَلْزِمُوهُم? Teach them manners, then teach them kind of knowledge, Islamic knowledge. Or the statements of Ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah, you know, it was in the kind of lineage of scholars from Imam Malik, that he said that we would, if we heard of someone of high knowledge, we wouldn't, you know, rush to go and visit this. We wouldn't travel to visit this person. But if we heard of someone of, you know, exemplary character, we would travel. We would be keen to go and meet this person. We find also that there's a statement narrated from Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu, that he said a similar thing, you know, that statement, أَدِّبُوهُمْ ثُمَّ عَلِّمُوهُمْ, that he said something similar. Because not quite the same, but he said that acquire knowledge and teach people, okay? But as you're learning, okay, learn with waqar and sakina, okay? Learn with like dignity, okay, and tranquility. And when you teach in this way. Don't be tyrannical scholars, basing your knowledge on ignorance. This is Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu. We also find, you know, similar statements. Okay, like we find the statements of Abu Darda, for example, okay, that he said, إنما العلم بالتعلم وإنما الحلم بالتحلم. That he said, knowledge only comes by learning, and forbearance, tolerance, patience comes by practicing, cultivating this patience. But he put the things together. Put the things together. You have to do both. You have to, in the same way you have to seek knowledge, you also have to try to cultivate your good character. Okay? So similar statements like this on good character and its impact on knowledge. And in fact, we find that there's a book called Fadl al-Salaf al-Khalaf, okay? That the virtues of the earlier generation over the later generation. The virtues of the earlier generation over the later generation. And in it, this is a book by Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, and in it he mentions about the beneficial knowledge, okay? The beneficial knowledge. And this beneficial knowledge, okay, or the signs of the beneficial knowledge and the signs of the people who are benefiting from their knowledge, as opposed to the signs of the others. That the sign of the person with beneficial knowledge is that they have good character. They're not argumentative. They're not going out for debate. Their seeking of knowledge is one that humbles them. You know, we have the example of Ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, where they said that he would just be quiet in gatherings. He was the most knowledgeable in the gatherings he would sit in, and he was quiet because of his knowledge came with good character. And it is a sign of someone's ignorance that they get a bit of knowledge and then they go out and start telling everyone they're wrong, okay, or start debating everyone. In fact, this is something again Ibn Rajab he mentioned in the book that I mentioned, the virtues of the Salaf over the Khalaf. Okay, that the sign of beneficial knowledge and the sign of people of knowledge is that they have this humbleness, that they have this humility, that they're not seeking the knowledge to go and tell other people they're wrong. They're seeking the knowledge to firstly benefit themselves, and then the way they convey that knowledge is with humility, with tranquility, with dignity. All of these good inner characteristics that are then expressed in their outward behavior. And then the final question. We've talked about the importance of good character. We've talked about how good character affects a person and affects their dealings, and that they should have sincerity, etc., etc. We've talked now about how good character is fundamental. It's a fundamental part of seeking knowledge. So we ask the question: how does one build good character? Tell me. You answer the question for me. How does one build good character? The answer to this question isn't something complicated. How does one build good character? Good. By actively changing our behavior. We saw a minute ago the hadith that hilm, okay, forbearance, tolerance, this kind of patience comes with someone cultivating, practicing. Okay? So, and in the same way, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about sabr, that sabr is given to the person, or is achieved by the person who practices patience. And it's from the traps of the shaitan, right? For someone to say, "Oh, I'm not a patient person." Yeah, you're not starting out as a patient person, but the Prophet ﷺ has given us the answer. If you're not patient, try to be patient, you'll become patient. And actually the same is true for many other things. Okay? If a person finds that they struggle to shed tears, okay, in their salah, in their sujood, what do you do? What do you do about it? You cultivate it. You almost force yourself to shed tears so that you are able to shed tears, so that that comes more and more naturally to you in the future. You reflect upon what you're saying, the glorification of the dua, all of these things, and you force yourself to shed tears so that you become more able. You force yourself to be patient so that you become more able. You force yourself to have hilm, so this forbearance, so that you become more able. And you force yourself to have good characteristics, to be honest, to be trustworthy, to be reliable, to be, to behave with people in a nice way. So that you are able to do more of that, and it becomes more natural. So Jazakallah khair, the first thing, actively changing our behavior. Reflecting on the way you interact with people. This is very good. And in fact, one of the ways the scholars have mentioned to improve and build good character is to not only do this, but also reflect upon the people you are around. Who are your friends? Who are your companions? Are they people who encourage you to have good behavior? Are they people who are, who are polite and well-mannered and so on? Or are they people who are obscene? Who are foul in their language, who aren't trustworthy, who lie, who cheat, etc. So look at yourself and look at your friends, your companions, because you are a reflection of your companions. You take on the characteristics of your companions. We know the hadith about suhbat al-salih, good companionship and evil companionship. And in both, we find the example the Prophet ﷺ gives. The good companion, you take on some of their goodness. The evil companion, the good companion is like the seller of musk. You go there, you at least come away with a nice smell. The bad companion is like the blacksmith. Even if you don't get anything from this person, just visiting them leaves you with the smell of soot and smoke. So your companion, reflect on the way you interact with people and the people who you are around. Think before acting. Again, similar answer in terms of changing the way you behave. Think before acting. Other things that the scholars have mentioned. Okay? They mentioned, sitting with the shuyukh. Okay? And the shuyukh who are known for their good manners and their good characteristics. And to be honest, you can sit with a sheikh for a small while. Okay, and see, is this a sheikh who you are going to pick up good characteristics from? You are going to learn this from. But in the same way you do this with your friends or your companions, you do this with the people you learn from. Look for those people who have good character. And you have to spend real time learning with someone, and not the kind of learning that's done often now on YouTube and I struggle to even quite learn, but YouTube videos and these kind of things. Actually, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, attending lessons, spending some real time with people of righteousness and good character. Okay? Those few who are learned and also, you can see their good character in them, and you can benefit from that. And they can point out to you where your flaws are as well. And self-restraint, self-restraint, again, another very good one. And connected to that, those ahadith, again, about hilm and sabr. Okay? You practice, you restrain yourself from bad behaviors and bad characteristics. Okay? And you force yourself to adopt good behaviors and good characteristics. And then it will become easier and easier. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like in everything else, a person who starts to make the way towards goodness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases them in good. But you put in that effort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come to you running. So this is how we build good character. Inshallah, in this session, inshallah you found it engaging and not just me talking at you. And also appreciate actually the kind of fundamental nature of good character. This isn't something that's an accessory. This is something that actually is at the core of a person. We mentioned that issue, the kind of linguistic issue of khalq and khuluq, the same root letters. Actually, this is what a person, everything they are, all their behavior is built upon their character. And the character should be the center of what you are. And it starts with your character towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, very much, and we said it is the character towards others. Man la yarham la yurham. Whoever's not merciful, he can't expect any mercy. Man la yashkur nas la yashkur Allah. The one who doesn't thank the people, isn't grateful to the people, isn't grateful to Allah. Allahumma kama ahsanta khalqi fa hassin khuluqi or ahsin khuluqi. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the same way that you perfected my creation, my outward, my appearance, perfect my inner, my khuluq, my character. So all of these things show us how fundamental good character is. And even more so for the person who is seeking knowledge. Because without good character, you will certainly fall into those traps that Ibn Rajab rahimahullah mentioned about the signs of non-beneficial knowledge. You end up using it to argue, to point at other people and so on. So fundamental, not just for everyone, but also, especially so for the one learning and seeking knowledge, so that your knowledge doesn't become an evidence against you. It doesn't stand on the day of judgment and say, this person, he had this knowledge, but he used it for wrong purposes. He used it to his own harm. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that same dua, Allahumma kama hassanta khalqi fa hassin khuluqi, or Allahumma kama hassanta khalaqana, or khalqana, hassin khuluqana. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perfect our manners and to make us of those who benefit from knowledge because of our good character. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I think I've done the same thing again. I've not left any doubts or questions.
Jazakallah khairan. Jazakallah khairan, Brother Yusuf. You reminded us of the importance of good character from the Quran and the Hadith, and how the Prophet was the best of examples. And you've given us tips as well and du'as we can make so that inshallah we can all improve our character and purify our souls. If anyone has any questions, we can try and squeeze in a few, 1 or 2 questions. If anyone does have any, don't feel shy, you can unmute or drop it in the chat. If no one has any questions, we can round up in that case then. But yeah, Jazakallah khairan everyone for joining. We have another lecture at 1 today. At 1 today about Aisha radiallahu anha. So it would be lovely to see you all there. But for now, enjoy your break and see you all soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.